Welcome to Company Showcase, an advertising feature on HowStreet.com.
I'm Jim Goddard. My guest is Larry Reaugh, CEO and President of American Manganese. Welcome back to the show, Larry.
Jim, looks like a great Friday out there. A little bit of rain, but mostly sun.
And, of course, Vancouver had almost record dry April, so a May shower now and then wouldn't hurt us. Larry, did American Manganese have a news release this week?
Yes, actually, we had a news release today. We were talking about the plant. That's the next big step for the company as a single project, and we've talked about our conceptual commercial recycling plant and what it's going to cost. And I think people have been waiting for this. There's a drawing that was included with it that is interesting. And it shows that the company is still striving ahead to do things even during this coronavirus pandemic. And so we're still moving ahead. Interestingly, when you look at our press release, you'll see at the very last line, we talk about particle distribution and size. And we're finding out things from battery manufacturers that are part of their own secret sauce. And, so we have got to change the final product that comes out of that. We'll be doing work on that in the very near future. It'll take some specialized equipment that has to be ordered, but we'll be on top of that, and that was great news for us, especially if we're going to be taking and doing deals with the battery companies, whereby we license a process to them, and they can work it on their plant. And we want to have all the answers for them before they do that. So this is another big plus for the company. It goes to show that the company is always moving ahead on its process. Every time you think you've got it to the point where you've got the best out of it, there's something else that comes along that doesn't interfere with the purity or the recoveries, but the final product has to be a little bit different. So that's exciting for the company. We've got a lot of attachments. There's more and more news out on in the market, especially from the U.S., on funding critical metals. And so I've attached a considerable amount of attachments this time, and one that I attached is just a rerun of our MOU with Voltabox, and that was done by the Waste Management, and so that is included. Let's have a look here. There's another headline out there. The electric vehicle revolution is finally hitting the U.S. Army. This is for trucks and all kinds of different utilities that they use, tanks, whatever, and gets away from having to move in diesel fuel to remote outposts. Power provided by nuclear energy would be one way of going, but the other one is the electric vehicle batteries. So that opens up another channel for us. The American quandary in how to secure weapons-grade minerals is another thing that's on top of the list. The DOD announced a deal where they were going to fund some research because Mountain Pass, which is the only producing rare earth mine in the United States, actually all their product as a concentrate goes to China for treatment. And not only that, but a Chinese company holds about 11% of the company, and the DOE is saying we can't do a deal with them. So I don't know how that's going to work out. But again, they're moving ahead to get independent on critical metals. And I've also included the economic standard, which is the Red Swan by our advisor, Daniel McGordy, and it's a very interesting read, and I think that everybody should take a look at that. Dan's talking about, we did have warnings about things like the coronavirus, and we did not pay heed to it, and now we're going to pay the piper, and so that is one of the important attachments that I've made. And Senator Ted Cruz is talking about development of domestic rare earth supply chain to get rid of reliance on China. And that there, of course, is another very interesting read. And just one I'm going to spend a little bit of time on is the battery recycling facility in Endicott, which is a South Korean effort. They have one in South Korea, and there's opposition to it because it's an incinerator, and that's not a solution to recycling batteries. Not only causes releases poisonous gases into the air, and people are starting to line up and boycott that particular thing. They've got their they have their license, and they passed their standards to take it into production, but the occupants of the area, the citizens, the interested shareholders are trying to blockade that, and the government is saying no, you've already issued those. But the reason I bring that up is that there's not many, if any, aside from our process, that will deal with 100% of the material that's sent to you without using heat and without introducing or putting anything back into the environment. So that's really important. Again, I can't relate strong enough that our patents are our lifeblood, and that's what's going to carry the day for us. So, it's been an interesting week. We get a lot of calls in here. It seems like we're busier than we've ever been. And again, that's from all over the world, so we get the word out there. We've done a good job of doing that, and the world ends up coming to us. Eventually, everybody will come to us, but right now we're getting dozens, close to probably 50 to 100 serious interest every year. So I can't say that I'm happy with the situation out there. The coronavirus has affected the market. I was hoping that it would hold above 24,000 in the Dow, but that was broken in the last 2 days, and it's see where it goes from here. But if it goes back up, breaks through the 24,000, we might see it on the way to 25, 26,000. And that's what I'm hoping for. It makes everybody's job easier if the markets are with you. And we'd like to have our market with us. We put out this great release this morning, and yet the stock, it didn't go anywhere. It was just clobbered with a lot of paper. And I don't like to say it, but a lot of that's predatory paper, and they're rearranging their positions, month end here. So, again, we've put out every release we put out should have been a market gainer for the company, but we're held down, but that won't last forever. And we got some interesting situations arising that we can talk about next week.
Larry, for people new to American Manganese, what's the company all about?
American Manganese is a critical metal company that developed a process for treating manganese, low-grade manganese in the U.S. We'll be hearing more about that because low grades are the only thing that would give the U.S. a domestic supply. The price of electrolytic manganese metal is not high enough now for us to go it alone. But, for example, if the U.S. wanted to complement or get independent supply of manganese, they would have to, somehow assist us in getting the processing the Tillery Peak stuff. So, I'm looking forward to that if it ever happens, but I can't see where it wouldn't. Remember, you can't make steel without manganese, and if you can't make steel, the world stops, and if you just stop and look around you, you see steel everywhere in your life. And so it's not just for military aspects, it's for domestic aspects. It's part of your automobile you drive in, and it's a big part of the infrastructure. So we've got to move ahead. I think the U.S. is starting to realize that they've got some resources on hand, and it's best that they develop and assist companies in developing them to get rid of that dependency on China, because it's obvious to the world now that depending on China is very, very extremely risky. Now, just to tell you a little bit more about the company, we trade on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol AMY. We trade in the U.S. under the symbol AMYZF. We trade in Frankfurt under the symbol 2AM. You can look at our website. You can do a complete due diligence on that website at AmericanManganeseInc.com. You can contact me at LReaugh@AMYMN.com, and you can phone us if you so desire at 778-574-4444.
Larry, thank you so much for the update.
Thank you.
I've been speaking with Larry Reaugh, CEO and President of American Manganese. I'm Jim Goddard. Our conversation took place on May 1st.
Comments made on Company Showcase are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any manner whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Archived online at HowStreet.com. Company Showcase is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.